In this session, we are going to run through all of the different markup tools, and I think that you'll really like them. So over here, the third icon from the bottom, we have our markup tools. So the highlighter, think of this as, the good old-fashioned highlighter. So if I want to highlight some text, I can go and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. So it functions just like the rectangle drawing tool. Do one click here, drag it across, double click there, and there we go. You can also change the highlighter color. So if you have like a different coloring scheme that you normally follow. So if I want the next one to be this bluish color, I can just change that to the bluish, and then I can kind of work my way around. If you want to change the color of one that you're already placed, you would just highlight it and then change the color in the color picker there. Okay. Next on the list would be our cloud. So similar to highlighting, but this is for a little more emphasis. Okay, so say on this plan that this enlarged floor plan is something that you really want to stand out. So you're going to just, again, it works very similar to the rectangle tool. So we're going to do one click up there, drag it across and place it. And what this does is just a little more emphasis, anywhere that you want the reader of this to draw their attention to, you can do a cloud. And just like the highlighter, you can change the color of these as well. Okay. A call out. So this is for leaving notes either to yourself or someone on your team. So we're going to do all this, again, doing a little rectangle, and I can say, please confirm. And that is going to place the text right there. If you need to rearrange this, just click on it and you can move this around. So if you want it to point directly into that corner, you can. You can also use these little drag handles to resize it. So a great way to leave notes, again, to yourself or other members on your team. Dimension line, remember this one back when we used to verify the scale, which I highly recommend. But you can use this for other things as well. So if you just want a visual on the screen, from point A to point B, I can go one click here, drag it across. I can either double click here for placement, or I can single click and then bring that up. Okay? Just like everything else, you can change the color. You can also change the font size here. So if you want the numbering to be larger or smaller, just click up and down on this font, plus or minus, to adjust accordingly. All right, the text box. So this is really just kind of what it says. So you can just draw a box. Here is my text. Just like that. Again, other options. So we can resize the box. We can change the color of the wording. We can make the wording larger or smaller by clicking on the font. Plus or minus indicators here. The last on the list is our legend. So this one's really cool. So again, I'm just going to click on this. I can place the legend wherever I want on the screen. Usually try to find a nice white area. This is a pretty busy floor plan, but just going to place a rectangle here. And that is going to show all the measurements for this particular plan page. So whereas if you have been measured on different plans throughout the project, this will show your project totals. The legend will be specific to this plan only. So it shows my 12-inch tile and then the sinks that I counted. Okay. Things that we can do here. So single select. Again, I can resize it. If you do not want the quantities on here, if you just want a color legend, we can just toggle that off right there. Okay. So now it's just a nice color legend. Toggle that back on to show the quantities. The other really cool thing about the legend is it updates dynamically. So we can see that right now I have 13 sinks. If I go back and say, oops, there is another sink, I'm going to go right there. We can see that that automatically updated to 14. So you can really apply the legends at any point in your process that you want to. You could start this plan page with just a blank image in the corner, and then as you add new takeoffs or add to the measurements, these will, the legend will automatically update, which is a really cool thing. And that is our markup tools. So appreciate your time. I will see you in the next session. So in this session, we're going to cover everything that you can do with our reports. And there's quite a bit to cover in here just because there's a lot you can do with our built-in reports. So let's kind of just start at the top of the list and work our way down. Okay, so the takeoff quantity. This is just a nice, clean report that shows your primary measurement type. Okay, so drywall ceiling was an area type measurement, so it's going to show me my square footage. This will be the same number that you're seeing on the actual takeoff template, but broken out into 2 decimal points. So just again, a nice clean report. The takeoff summary will show the primary measurement along with any secondary or tertiary even measurements. So if we look at the same drywall ceiling, we can see that it has a total of 5,059.92 square feet, but it's also going to show the linear, so the perimeter of all of my measurements. If we look at asphalt paving, so this is an area measurement that has a depth applied to it. It's going to give us the square footage of the area for the asphalt paving. It's going to give us the linear footage for the perimeters, and then also the cubic yards of paving required to fill that area. So you're getting all your primary and your secondaries. Let's see here, our little added bar. We're showing a count of 6. We do not see a scale. We do not need a scale associated with count type items. But you will see a count here for like an area. So let me explain this. So this is saying our 5/8 drywall ceiling, total square footage, total linear or the perimeter of each. And this is going to say that we have 20 different measurements with this drywall ceiling. Okay, so again, takeoff summary is going to give you a little bit more data than the takeoff quantity, and the takeoff measurement is going to take it a step further and show you, okay, these are all the measurements that roll up to. So here is my 12-inch tile. These are all the different measurements that I've done to total this 10508. A nice little perk with this, so if you draw with the rectangle tool, doesn't work with the polygon, even if you do like a rectangle shape, but if you actually draw with the rectangle tool, it's going to pull the height and width for you, which is really pretty cool. So you've got the height and width. This is excellent for like our doors and windows guys, or any kind of openings. So some little bonus information there. Again, we run across in this view. We're also going to show you what plan page. So it'll say, okay, this particular 10.38 height and this width and my square footage is associated to one measurement on plan page 110. You can turn the plan name on for any of these reports, but just to show you. This is also a good report for finding things. So if you're going through this list and you're like, that 35, that number seems a little odd, you can click on this little icon and it will zoom you to the page and highlight that particular measurement. So you can be like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that 35, that does make sense. It's right there. That was a little bit larger room. We're fine. Or you can, adjust accordingly. So the top 3 reports have to do with measurements. The bottom 4 reports have to do with materials. So if you're using the Pro version of our software, we're using items and assemblies. This is where your data will show up. So an item list, this is just a raw kind of unformatted list of all that you would need for the project. Item cost is the same report with pricing information. So again, it starts to price out the project. Item cost by type is going to break it down into your different cost types. So labor, material, crew hours. Okay, so just format it a little bit differently. And then item cost by takeoff breaks down all the materials that roll into this. So here is my 5/8 drywall ceiling. Here is my takeoff description that I typed in. And here are all the materials and the quantities that roll up into this drywall ceiling. Here are all the quantities that roll up into my added bar. Okay, so just different ways of displaying your information. Let's hop back up into the takeoff quantity. So things that we can do here, I can resize the column, so I can make that longer or shorter. I can move things around, so if I want my scale to be listed first, I'm just going to grab it and move it up front. So you can kind of move things around however you want. You can also turn columns on and off. So say that I don't want the scale to appear. I can click on columns and then scroll down to scale and see that that is no longer in my report. Okay? If you're using label groups, and I highly recommend that you do for grouping your data, you also have some additional functionality. So under my columns, I can see, everything that I can display, which I can just toggle quickly on and off. But at the top here are the different label groups that I used for this project. So I can turn on my building one, which I don't have any assigned to that. That's not a great one. Let's do CSI. So here are my different CSIs that I have associated, okay? So you can show these as columns, or you can show them as groupings. So I can also group by CSI, which will show, okay, here are my '09 finishes. Here is my CSI none, asphalt, masonry, concrete, and so forth. And you can group as many times as you want. The data gets a little trickier to read the more you group, but you certainly have that ability within the software. Expand works like this. So we can see our standard brick takeoff at 3326.97 square feet. And I see that in the elevation, it's associated with the east, the north, the south, and the west. So I can see that this takeoff exists in these 4 places. If I want to see the breakout per elevation, I can either expand by elevation there, or honestly it's just easier just to click right on one of these guys, and now I show my individual measurements. So here is my brick for my south elevation, my brick for my west, brick for the north, and the brick for the east. And then if you want to collapse that again, all we're going to do is just click on it and we can bring it back up. So this is just a nice visual way to say, okay, this exists in all these different places. You can expand it if you want to see your measurements that are associated with each one. So that works the same with all these reports. Okay. Filters, sure. So if I want to look at just my north elevation, I can look at just my north elevation, okay? If you get in here and you have a ton of groupings and you're like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I just want to get back to the beginning, you can reset. That'll take everything back to its original form. So this one we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I used 7 different label groups in this project. Again, you can make these reports as complex or as simplistic as you want. The software can handle it. Also, if you have a lot of data on your screen, you can click this little toggle right there just to give you some more screen real estate. So it just hides that left panel. Again, if you don't want to see all this, it's as easy as just unclicking what you do not want to see. Okay, lots of flexibility there. Again, everything we've talked about is available for every one of these reports. We can also create snapshots. So snapshots are kind of point in time snapshots. Create that. I can take my takeoff quantity. I can save this snapshot. I could rename it if I wanted to. That is going to put my data right over here. So we can see today's date and time. So it times and date stamps the time of this. The advantage here is if I went back into the project and I drew some more, so I did some more takeoff for my ceiling, it would update it here in the report, but it would say the same here. So this is kind of at this point and date and time, this is where I was. So that's really good for different versionings or alternates. You can do a lot with these little snapshots. And what's really cool is you can still manipulate the data. So if you wanted to group this by a certain thing, even though it's a snapshot, you can look at it in whatever format. You can turn columns on and off. You have all the same functionality, even though the data here will not change because it is as of that time. You can also sort. So say that I wanted to sort, I can click on quantity and I'm going from least to greatest. Click again and that will take me down to there. So there's a ton of report functionality. Again, the software can handle about as much as you want. And we're good to go. So on the next session, we will talk about exporting the data out and different ways to do that. So appreciate your time. I'll talk to you soon. So in this session, we're going to focus on different ways to get your data out of Stack and into other ways via printing or transferring over to Excel. Okay, so we give you a couple different print options here. So if you just want a quick kind of print, you can do a browser print. This does not look the greatest. All that does is just going to bring up your browser and print there. So it's not the best looking, but if you're looking for just a quick print to review, that's a good way to go. The better looking ways would be to either go with a print of a PDF, and you can choose if you want to see this data as a landscape or in portrait, but we're just going to click on this. That is going to bring this up into a better looking environment, and then you can choose to print or to download from here. Okay, so that's landscape. You're going to see very similar in portrait. Again, it just depends on how you want your data displayed. Okay, you can also send this out to Excel, and we give you some different options here based on which report you're on. So I can export this to Excel. So when you're exporting to Excel, it's always going to export how you see it on the screen. So these are the columns that I have turned on. Remember, we can easily turn on and off columns over here, but it's going to print, or export, I should say, exactly like how you see it. Okay, so get your report just how you want it, and you can export to Excel. You can also export to CSV, which by default will give you all of the columns. So this is a great export for those who like to use pivot tables. This is going to give you all your data. You can quickly throw it into a pivot table and really do anything you want with your data at that point. If you're using our project cost calculator, which we'll cover in a separate session, this is a specific format that project cost calculator needs. So we did this just kind of ease of use. You don't have to go in here and choose what columns to display or not display. It's just going to automatically export in the format that you would need for this. Okay, so you won't see this on all, because like the measurement by Takeoff, we wouldn't have a version for that. In the project cost calculator, that's just more data than you would want to display in that type of report. So you can also print snapshots. So I can go back to the snapshot. Again, I have my same options here and my same options here for export. So you can export any of your past or your historical data. And this works the same for all these reports. So print A quick browser print, sure. A better looking formatted report would be one of these two options. Excel, exactly how you see it as a screen. CSV is all your data points, again, good for use with the pivot table or for the project cost calculator. That is a specific export for that, and we will cover that in the next session. All right, thanks. See you soon. In this session, we're going to cover how to print your different takeoff pages, okay? There's a couple different ways that we can do this in the application. I can simply put a little checkbox in the ones that I want to print. So I've got a checkmark here, and then I can just go to print selected and just print one PDF with those two pages, okay? A shortcut there is if you wanted to, be careful of how many pages in your project, but you could do Control or Command All. This is a smaller project, would be fine. And then this would print, one PDF with all 6 of these pages. You just want to be careful if you have 1,000 pages and do Command All. That's probably not what you were really wanting to do. Also, the shortcut key Escape will remove the check marks from those, okay? The other way is within a plan page. So I can be in on this plan page A110. I can go to print. And this version is a little easier because the software is able to detect, okay, I've done a takeoff on 5 of the plan pages. So we're going to assume, okay, you want to, download all the PDFs with takeoffs. If so, it's just a quick, easy button right there. It's going to queue up. It'll take a few seconds, and then the system will give you a download link to grab that PDF, okay? But you can also override that. So here's my download. Click right there, and it'll pop open with all the pages, okay? So this is the second page that we were looking at here. Let me close out of that. You can also override that in this method. So if I'm on a plan page like this, I can click on print and be like, okay, I want to print this one and this one and this one. So the little compass symbol just means that there are takeoffs on that plan. So the A610 is just a blank plan, but we can choose to print that and then just export those 3 selected, okay? Very cool. One other option, so say that I'm zoomed in on this plan page and there's something that I want someone specifically to see about this view, okay? I can go to print and print current view, boom, and that'll give me a PDF of just what is showing on the screen, okay? So different methods to kind of get you where you want to go. Again, quick print, just kind of put a check mark in the thumbnails that you want to print selected. If you're inside of a plan page, you can go to print, and most times you can just click export the pages with your takeoffs. This is a kind of a quick way to get where you're going. You can also add or subtract manually, like so, or if you're zoomed in, you can print the current view. So lots of different options for you there, and I will see you in the next session. Thank you. So in this session, we're going to cover some of the more advanced features. So we're going to talk about plan content search. We're going to talk about using label groups. We're going to talk about using bookmarks to kind of hyperlink to different pages. I'll briefly touch on our different Excel tools that we offer here with Stack, although I'll do a separate training specifically for those tools. So this one will be just a little longer, just to give you kind of heads up there. So plan content search is a really powerful feature within Stack. If I go back to my overview, I can see that I have 6 plan pages here. I'm on the Takeoffs tab. If I click over to plans, I can actually keyword search. So say I want to keyword search the word brick. So it's going to filter my results. So instead of showing me all 6, it's going to show me the one plan page where the word brick exists, and it's going to show me, okay, that word appears 10 times on the plan page. So if I click to open, we'll see that we have highlighted that word basically 10 times there. I can exit search there. I can hop to a different plan page. So I know one of the has the word resident, but there we go. So we can see the word resident exists on these two. It exists 3 times on this plan page and 12 times on this plan page. So it's a great way to kind of filter your list and to quickly find yourself, especially if you have a large project, to be able to quickly get to the plans that you want to measure. Okay, exit search will just take me back to the overview. So I had touched on label groups in an earlier session, so this one we're just going to take a little bit more time with this. So again, if we look at my takeoff templates or in the reports, it's going to show everything in its totality. Okay, but on this plan page we can see that our work is broken up into different units. So say that you want to be able to group either your takeoff templates or your reporting by the whatever kind of groupings that you want, and Stack can really be as versatile as you want on this. Okay, so we're going to go over kind of the concepts here. So we group our data with labels, and labels exist at the project level. So we can get to the labels section by starting any of these takeoffs. Will take us to this label session. So we can see in this project, I do not currently have any label groups, but it's really easy to create them. So we would want our label to be by what we want to group by. So in this case, I've got different units for A, B, C, D, etc. So I want to group by unit. And here I can go unit A, or I guess it's just plan A, press enter, plan B, plan C. So you can see how you can quickly create this list. Okay, and if you're wondering if you have to create this list for every single project, if you typically do the same type of grouping, say you want to group by building or group by floor or group by phase or group by CSI or even CSI subdivision, you can really just create this list once. I'll show you how you do that in a separate area of the software, and then just reuse that list for all of your future projects. But as you can see, I created here very, very quickly. You can create up to 10 different labels in the same project. So say that you wanted to group by building and also group by floor and then also group by room and also group by phase. You can do this and be as versatile as you want, okay? And speaking of versatility, you can actually do this in 2 different ways. So in my 12-inch tile, let's hop out. I meant to be in my vinyl flooring, but you can see that these labels exist at the project level, so it doesn't matter what takeoff that you're in. So you can either draw these as you go. So I have not added the vinyl into plan H, so I can choose plan H and then draw. So again, I can hold down my shift key, or toggle my shift key, I should say, if I want to draw straight lines just to make this a little faster. And now this is associated with plan H, okay? Oftentimes I have found is it's faster to do it after the fact, and it kind of depends on what you're measuring. But in these little units, I have some 12-inch tile, I have some vinyl flooring, and I have a count for sinks. So a lot of times I find that it's faster to do these after the fact, okay? So to do so, we would use, you can do it with a single select. So I can highlight this and say, you know what, this is associated with plan A. Or you can multi-select, which is really where we want to go. So multi-select, I'm going to click up here in this white space, drag my mouse diagonally and it's going to highlight everything that's associated with that, and I can say that is Plan B. And then I can just quickly work my way around. So Plan B, pull it around, Plan C, and I won't put you through the pain of watching me do this on all the units, but what this will do is start to allow me to group this data. So see here we have with this group by drop down. We can group by plan name, which is a built-in function in Stack that requires no setup at all, which is really cool. Or I can group by unit. So we can see, okay, here are the measurements associated with Plan B, Plan A, and Plan C. That was the one for the Plan H that I drew and assigned to it. So I could really work my way around and finish my assignments and have everything that I needed right here. Okay, and then the same functionality exists in the reports. Okay, and then you can group by multiple levels. The one I mentioned to close out the grouping, just click the little X. Every Stack project has a built-in plan name that requires no setup whatsoever. So you can just click on this, and this shows, okay, all the work that I've done in this project exists on plan page A251. So if I've done takeoffs on other pages, it would group them together just like we saw here. And you can also subgroup. So I can group by, or I can change the order if I want for plan name to go first and then by unit. So very versatile. You can do a lot of different things. Like I said, you can go up to 10 different groupings in a project. So Stack can handle just about anything that you want to group by. Very, very powerful. Let's touch on bookmarks. So bookmarks are a way to quickly zoom to another page and at a certain zoom level on that page. So say that whenever I'm on this particular area of the plan, I want to place a link here that would take me to, I don't know why it would take me there, but say that it would take me here. Okay, so you kind of end, or you start with where you want to end. So I want to zoom to this layer of the building. I'm going to create a bookmark, so I'm going to add my bookmark. By default, it's going to show the page number. I mean, you can override that if you want, but that's fine with me. So now I've created it, and now I just want to place it. So I'll go back here and say I want to place my bookmark. Yep, it'll give you a list of all. That's the one I want. Boom. There, so I can say, okay, when I am here, I just want to quickly be able to go here. So click there, and it's going to zoom me to that plan page at the zoom level I want it to. Okay, so bookmarks are a great way to kind of get around. You'll also see a list of them under the Plans tab. So we have a little bookmarks folder. So wherever you are in the project, you can also just come here, click on it, and it'll zoom you to that location. So bookmarks are a great way to quickly get around the software. I want to touch on our Excel tools that we offer for Stack, and then again I'll cover these more in depth in another session. But we offer a project cost calculator, so if you do not have an Excel spreadsheet, we offer this that you can download for free and then import your Stack report, be able to add margin, add overhead, that kind of thing, and actually take it out to quote, and we'll run through that. We also offer an Excel add-in for our report sync product. What this does is if you already have an Excel spreadsheet, you can install this for free and actually open Stack in Excel and transfer your data over, which is really pretty powerful. Again, I'll cover both of these because they're kind of worthy of their own session. So that's it for now. So we covered Content search, great way to filter your list and quickly find what you want to measure. You can create label groups here. You can group by on your takeoff list or your report. Also, I had mentioned the ability to save those for future projects. So let's touch on that really quickly. If I go into my company settings, account settings, and I go to my company settings, here we'll see a section for company labels. So here are all the different label groups that I have created. And when you create them in this section of the software, you can quickly add them to any future project. So kind of like what I was saying, if you typically do like building 1, building 2, building 3, or different phase work, or in this case, elevations, you can just create them one time here and then quickly pull them into the project, okay? Here you can control the order, so you can control the ordering here. You can delete or you can edit a plan name if you needed to, okay? Workflow would be the same, kind of create your label and then create your label options. That workflow would be the same over here. All right, let's hop back into our little training project and I'll show you how that works in practice. So say that I'm on this plan page on a takeoff. Here is the one that we created for our unit, A through H. But see this little library tab here? I can click on that library and this lists all the different label groups that I had created in that company settings, which makes it incredibly fast. So I can just add to the project. Boom, here it is. Done. And there it is. So you can just see how quickly this is. Also, if you need to edit this, you can move things around. You can delete things out. If you need to do a spelling change, you can just hop in there and do a spelling change. Or if you need to add another, you can. So again, really easy to work with. If you are going to be doing these kinds of work, I do recommend, just because the workflow is so fast, create them up in company settings. You will have them available for any project, and then just quickly add them. So, okay, well, now I've got my estimator. I can group by the work that they do, by unit, by elevation, or by CSI, I'm sorry. And it's really that fast and that powerful. You will absolutely love it. All right, I will catch you in the next session where we will look at Excel tools. As always, appreciate your time. Thanks. In this session, we're going to cover a little bit more in depth on our different Excel tools that Stack offers. So in the report section, we can export our data. The project cost calculator is a very nice little tool that you can import that report data and then assign pricing or markup or waste and actually take it out to full quote. So we'll run through that process. So for those of you that do not have an Excel spread that you typically use, you are more than welcome to use ours. It is absolutely free with your subscription. We also offer a report sync add-in for Excel, which is really cool. So if you use your own Excel spreadsheet, you can actually log into Stack through Excel and actually move your data over, which is pretty amazing. But let me show you these really quickly. So if I want to download the project cost calculator, click on that little guy, and then that will go into my downloads folder just like it did, and I can open that up. That will prompt Excel. There we go. So when you first open the project cost calculator, it does use macros to kind of work its magic behind the scenes. So it's going to prompt you 2 times, and you want to enable twice. So enable first, enable macros, yes. And then it's going to ask us one more time to enable content, okay? So we have this. Just save this to your desktop. I'm going to shrink it down for just a moment. Let's hop back into our project, and we'll go to our takeoff quantity report here, okay? So again, we have a specific format for the project cost calculator. It is available for the takeoff quantity report or for the item cost by type report. Okay, I don't have any items assemblies attached to this project, but you can see that that exists for that. So we're just going to export to the project cost calculator. Let me open that up so that you can see it. There we go. And then I'm just going to do a quick save as. I'll save it to my desktop so I can find it, and we'll just call this one training. Oops. And save that to my desktop. Okay. Shrink that guy down, or actually we close it. Let's hop back to the project cost calculator. And now we're just going to import that CSV. So that's why I saved it to my desktop, just so I could find it really quickly. Import my CSV. Let me make this a little bit bigger so y'all can see it. Import CSV. It's going to say, hey, do you want to import a new one? Yes, I sure do. It's going to say, okay, great. Where is it? It is my training CSV. And then it's going to populate. And this is pretty cool. So it's going to quickly give you all the data. So again, here's my CSI, my estimator, here are my plans, all my label group data. This is the name of my takeoff template, 12-inch tile. It has my quantity. And I can say, you know what? I have a $3.50 per square foot price. I can add a 10% waste factor if I want to. I can mark it up. Say I want to mark it up an additional 15%. And you can see that runs across the total. So I can go and add these for anything that I want. And just kind of say, yep. And for my sink, we pay $50. I can add a waste factor if I want. Again, I can apply some markup specifically to that sink if I wanted to. And then I can go down here and say, okay, I want to do a 10% overhead and then an overall 15% profit margin. So we can see that we've actually working out to, let me make that a little bit bigger for a minute. We can actually pricing out our project in the project cost calculator is a beautiful thing. Some other things that we can do here. So I can go into this info tab and I can put my own information. So I can edit the info and I could put my name, I could put my company address. I can type in my own terms and conditions. I can add a footer text if I want to. I can upload my logo, so that will appear on this quote tab. I can even set the color, so it's going to come kind of the stat green, but you can set different background colors here if you want to. Okay? So once that is there, I can go back to my calculator. I can say update my quote. It's going to think for a minute. And now I have all of this information on this quote tab. So if you had uploaded your logo, it would appear here. This would be your company information that you inputted. You can click here to type any of your customer information. You can add a description of work here. It brings down all of your work, so it's going to hide, the profit margin waste, the kind of things that you do not want your customer to see. It will bring over the terms and conditions, and then you have some signature lines, and then you can export this as a PDF, so you actually have a hard copy that you can email or hand to your customer that they can sign off on. So you can actually take this to full quote and then just kind of reuse this template as you want. I could import or reset this, import a CSV from my next project, and again kind of work through the same scenario. Adjust my unit cost, waste, markup, overhead, I can add tags if I needed to. You can add notes about this, which would just appear for you. It wouldn't transfer over into the quote. So some pretty cool functionality with the old project cost calculator here. Okay. Well, let's look at a new Excel worksheet. All right, so brand new. So the second one, remember we had the project cost calculator at the top, and then we had the Excel report sync as the second one. So what this does is actually puts this little stack icon right here that you can access your projects from Stack. You don't have to have Stack open right from within Excel, which is a really cool thing. Okay, to add this, we are going to go to the Insert tab. So this works with Microsoft Excel 2016 and newer. I can click on Get Add-ins. You can just type the word stack here, search stack. It'll show up at the top, and then just add. It's as painless as that. What that is going to do is add, oh, I needed to add it, I took it off. Yes. All right, and that's it, ready, set, go. So got it. So I can click right here. I can log into Stack from Excel. Like I said, you do not need Stack even open to do this. And I can access all of my projects. Okay, show more results, so I can just keep going and keep going and going. This is the project that we are on, training, so I'll open that one. These are the different reports that will be available. So if you're on the Plus version of the software, you'd have access to the takeoff summary. If you have Pro, you would have access to all three. Again, these will be material reports. This one will be a measurement report. But here is all my data. So if you have a spreadsheet that you currently use, you would just open that spreadsheet. So you wouldn't be looking at a blank spreadsheet, you'd be looking at your spreadsheet, and you can just tell Excel where to send this data. So I can just click on a certain cell, that's where I want to place it. I can click on here, drag my mouse, hit the little plus, and it's going to send all that data over. You can also do that cell by cell if you wanted to. So if I just wanted my quantity, just click my quantity and just the quantity will go over. If I want to send a row, highlight the row, send it over. Okay, if I want to send the column, send the column. If I want to send everything, send everything. So it gives you total control. And what this helps is you don't have to, manually type this in from your Stack report. So it's going to reduce the margin of error and just make a faster workflow. What's really, really cool about this is that say that you have all this data pulled into the spreadsheet that you use, and then say that you go back and make a change to Stack. So let me just kind of shrink this down for just a second. This is book 1. I can go back to my takeoffs. Let's get rid of that. So my tile 1538. Let me open book 1 again. 1538, 1538. I can go draw some additional tile. Oops. Again, I could assign label groups to this as I'm going. We can see that takes us up over 2,000, so 2170. I can go back to book 1. I'm still at that 1538, wherever I place that. But see, we have this little sync button. I can click that, and look at that. It updates your totals, so that if you have everything placed in the spreadsheet exactly where you want it, and you need to go back and make a change to the takeoff and Stack, you don't need to go back to your Excel template and delete or carry over. All you have to do is hit that little sync button. It is a beautiful thing. You will absolutely love that. Also a little grouping here. So we were grouping by label groups that works here as well. So we can see, oh, here's my groupings for Plan A, for Plan B, Plan C, just to give you a little guidance on where to pull that data over. So 2 different Excel items for you. The report sync, again, works with Excel 2016 or newer. That works with the desktop or the online version of Excel. Our project cost calculator, let me pull that guy back up. This will work with the desktop version of 2016 or newer. It does not work with the online because the online does not support macros. But I believe I've seen this work on versions 2013 as well, but officially works with 2016 and newer. Both are great avenues. Like I said, they are free and they are included in your subscription. So feel free to take advantage of either. Okay, learn more tags if you want to learn more, or rewatch this video anytime, or give us a call, or click the little chat button. So always lots of ways to get with us to ask the questions. All right, so those are our Excel tools. As always, I appreciate your time, and I will see you soon. In today's session, we are going to cover the share and the invite tools, kind of what you would use either for and what the differences are, okay? So think of them as kind of opposites. So here I have my project. It's completed. And say that I want to share this project with someone outside of my company. All I do is click on share. I activate sharing right here. And it's going to give me a little link. All I have to do is copy and paste it. So I can copy that and paste that into an email or an instant message, anything like that. And the user will be able to click on that link, and that will take them to a read-only view of your project. So they wouldn't be able to make any changes. They can't add to, they can't modify, they can't delete. It's just a read-only view of all your takeoffs. They would be able to see all your markups. They would be able to access your reports. If you're using the Pro version, they would not be able to see your pricing though. So pricing is excluded from that experience for any of the Pro reports here. So sharing is you want to share your project information with someone outside of your company in a read-only state. So again, they cannot edit, they cannot delete, they can only view everything in the project, okay? Invite is kind of the opposite of that. So say that I do like Division 9 here, so I do some finishes, but say that I wanted to send this to someone else for them to do like some concrete work or some roofing work or something like that. I can invite that user to the project. Okay, workflow is kind of the same. I can activate this. I can copy all this text, so it gives you a little bit more. I can go paste that into an email or whatever else I want to send out. What they will get is an invite link. They don't have to have a Stack account. They can create a free account with that link, and they will get a version of the blank plan. So think of, your plans without any takeoffs. So basically you're inviting them to do some work. Say you're a general contractor, you want to send this out to your subs. You'll use an invite link. They would not be able to see any of your work or any of your report data. They will get a blank set of plans for them to do their own takeoff and then submit it back to you. So kind of the opposites. Again, your share to share your work. They can see your work. They can see your reports. Again, the reports exclude price data. Or you can invite. You can invite someone to do work on this project. They would not be able to see your work. They will only get a blank set of plans to do their own takeoffs on. And that is share and invite. So thanks again. So in this session, we are going to focus on building items. So again, for the pro side of the software, so we're going to be working with materials. So we're going to create some items and then attach those items to our takeoffs and show you what that looks like in the report section. Okay, so let's just kind of build on what we've done. Let's build some 12-inch tile items. We'll also do a sync item just so you can see what a single item looks like. Attach it and then see what we have in our report. So just to kind of bring you up to speed, we have all of our measurements here, which is awesome. But these bottom 4 reports are material reports, and since we have not attached any items, we can see that all of these reports have no data. So let's fix that. So 12-inch tile. Let's go to our items up above, and I have a bunch of folders because I've done this for a while. So let's just create a subfolder for training, and then just put some folders, put some items in there. Okay, so I'm going to click on this little ellipse, and we're going to create a new item here. So our item name, we can just say that this is the actual 12-inch tile. Say that we purchased that by the case. We measured it in square foot, okay, because it was an area measurement. And then here you're going to do just a simple conversion rate. So you can say one case, so one case of tile, 12-inch tile, covers 200 square feet, okay? And what this will do is when we attach this item, it'll tell us how many cases that we need, okay? We'll also do a square foot example for the vinyl, but this number of cases, we can say that that is a material and say that we pay $47.50 for a case, okay? So I could just add that and I would add it to my training folder, but let's just kind of keep running with this. So what's really quickly is you can just do create and add another and say that we do 12-inch tiled adhesive. Say we buy that by the tube. Measurement would be the same, square footage. And we're going to change our coverage rate and say, okay, one tube covers 50 square feet. And then put our per tube price down there. All right, create and add another. We can say our 12-inch tile labor. And we'll say that we want to know that per hour. And we can say that my installer can do 100 square feet per hour. And I can say that that is a labor and then put a labor rate in here, okay? Accounting code is just kind of a miscellaneous field. You can put an accounting code, a SKU number, a part number, anything that you want that's just kind of a free text field, anything that you would want to use for your particular tracking, or feel free to leave it blank as I have done, okay? So boom. So now within this training folder, I have our material for our tile, our adhesive, and our labor. So let's attach these and we'll come back and kind of finish this out. So let's go back into my little training project. So I've done my measuring. I've created my items. All I need to do now is just connect the two of them. So right down there, I just clicked on the name to get to the screen. We have this items and assembly section. So we're going to add our items. It does default to the assembly side. In this case, we're just going to go over to the items tab and find my little training folder, and we are going to connect all three, just like that. Okay, so like I said, our drawing was already done, so we're good to go. We can hop directly into our reports. Again, an item list will just give us raw, this many cases, this many tubes, this many hours. Item cost will be like an unformatted list. Item cost by type. Let me remove some of my labors here. Let's get rid of unit as well. And I didn't use accounting code. So now we can see, okay, it breaks it down to material and labor. So here's my 12-inch tile. I would need almost 11 cases. I would need 43 and a half, roughly, tubes of adhesive. And based on my measurements, this would take almost 22 hours to complete. So we can see we've got our material and labor right there, and it was really pretty painless. And once you create those items, they're with you forever. You can come back and update pricing if you want. You can add to it, of course, but you don't have to recreate those for every project. What's even better, if you want to take that a step further, I can save this item to my library, and then if I use this 12-inch tile takeoff, this blue one right here, it has the 3 items already attached. So the next project I upload, my project tab will be blank because I haven't started it yet, but I would just open the page I want to measure, go to my library tab, let me search that to narrow, click this little green arrow, and then just go measure. And all the work is already done. You'll be calculating your square footage, your cases of tile, your tubes of adhesive, and your labor, and it is really that fast. Okay, let's do a couple more examples. So let's go back and let's do our sink. So let's create another item. Again, I'm being kind of simplistic here. Say we purchased that by the each, and that is by an each. We did that as a count. So 1 each equals 1 each, so we're fine there. We can say that that is a material, and we pay $75 per sink, okay? Let's go ahead and do our vinyl example, and then we'll get these connected. So say that we just want to do this by a square foot, so we don't want to do this by, by a roll or anything. We just want per square foot pricing. Again, that would be square feet because we drew it as an area. And then here we don't need to do any type of conversion. It's just 1 square foot equals 1 square foot, which is exactly what we want. We can say that that is a material, and then we can do our per square foot pricing. Okay, so you can really get this to calculate however you want. And we could even do vinyl labor. Again, keep it as a square foot. Unit of measure is the same. 1 square foot equals 1 square foot. That's fine. Go to our labor and say, okay, we do, $2 even for labor. And that's it. So we have these. They're in our database now. Let's just go connect them. Click right on sync. Let's add that. Again, it defaults to assemblies. We'll go over to items. You can also search for it up here. Grab my sync. We're good to go. And let's grab our vinyl, those 2 items that we had built out. You can do a folder structure. Oops, tricked me. To go to items and our vinyl labor. Again, the key here, and what you'll really want to do is once you get these attached, save them to your library. Never have to attach them again. Again, 90% of the work is done. You're just going to measure it and be good to go. But we should be looking really good for our reports now. We can go to our item cost by type. This is going to show our material and our labor. So we can see our per square foot labor calculated for us. Okay, or per hour, remember. Or you could do this per day, whatever you wanted to do. This item cost by takeoff is going to kind of roll things up. So here's my 12-inch tile. These are, my quantities and my pricing for the 12-inch tile. Here are for my sinks. Again, that was $75. We did 14 each. And then here is my vinyl flooring where I just went with per square foot pricing for both, and it calculates. So we can see it's just an amazing thing, and it was really, really, really easy to get there. And we also know, since we saved this to our library, the next time that we want to use this, oops, I didn't add sync to the library. Silly me. Boom. There's our sync. All we're going to do is click on that. The item's already attached to it. We're just going to go count our sinks and be done. Nice, simple, and painless. All right, so that is covering items. In the next session, we will talk about assemblies. All right, thank you. In our last session, we talked about creating items, and we attached those items to the takeoff so we can see we've got a 12-inch tile, and we have our 3 different items attached, okay? So let me pop these guys off of there. And now we're going to talk about assembly. So a lot of people get intimidated by the word assemblies, and it can be, if you're doing really complicated work or you want that complexity, but honestly it doesn't have to be. So let's just talk about the concept here. So an assembly is a grouping of items, okay? An assembly is a grouping of items. So let's create one more item here just so you can kind of see where we're going with this. So these are the items that we created in the last one. Let's do a 24-inch tile. I would purchase that by the case, measure it in square feet, and then here's where we do our coverage rate and our material pricing. Okay, so you'll kind of see where I'm going with this in a minute, but we have 2 different types of tile here. So let's build a tile assembly, right? So an assembly is a grouping of items. So we have these items created, and we are going to create a grouping for them. So let's see, let's create like we did in the last time. Let's create a new folder, call it training, and let's create a new assembly. So just like we created an item in the last video, here we're going to create an assembly. We can call this our tile assembly, or just call it tile. You can assign an ID, like a tracking number if you wanted to. And again, we drew this in square footage, okay? Add a description if you want to, that is optional, and add. So here we have the concept of required items and item groups, okay? So let's start with our required items. So we're going to add an item. Again, this is searchable, but since we know where ours are, and say that we want our tile adhesive and our tile labor. Okay, so every single project, oops, I hit the wrong button. That's what happens when you hit the wrong button. So tile adhesive, tile labor, add those 2 items. Okay, so they appear here in my assembly. And then let's do an item group for our 2 different types of tile. So we'll add a group, and we'll say tile type. And now we're going to add those 2 different items here. So we had a 12-inch tile, and we had our 24-inch tile. Add those 2 items, okay? And we're not going to do anything else. We'll come back and kind of tweak with this a minute, but you'll see how it brought over our coverage rates, okay? I can save this assembly, go back to my training project, click on this, and then add my assembly. So right down here, add items and assemblies. Again, it's going to default to the assembly side, which is fine. We're going to go to our little training folder and add our tile assembly. Boom. So what's cool is the labor and the adhesive were required items, so they're already there. So the only thing it's going to prompt us to do is say, okay, which type of tile do I want to use on this project? I'll say, okay, we'll use the 12-inch tile. And we're good. So we're back to, we've already done our drawing. We created our assembly and we attached it. So we can go straight to our reports. And then this will look really exactly the same, because what we did, instead of adding additional items, kind of clicking through, is we just added one assembly, and the assembly allowed us to choose what type of tile. So there you can kind of see the advantage of an assembly. it gives you that little extra benefit of using your different types. So we, expand this list if we wanted to. I'd say, nope, what? Customer wants us to change that to the 24. I can go back to my reports, and now I have my 24-inch tile, just like that, okay? So let's look at some other reasons to use assemblies. Let's hop back into our same tile adhesive. So you can see that we carried over the coverage rates. In a lot of cases, that will be fine, but you can do some additional things here. So I can create my own formula. So if I open up my 12-inch tile, just click into this formula section, we can see the formula editor. Again, this can look kind of intimidating, but let's kind of walk through it. So all these variables are from within Stack. So remember when you create a new takeoff and you give it a name, then you check your measurement type from the drop down. So area, linear, count, linear with drop, pitched area, pitched linear, surface area, volume 2, volume 3. So those will look familiar from that list. So those are all the measurements that are available, but we can add to it. So say that our tile adhesive, for some reason we want to have different layers of adhesive, so we can add a variable. So number of, gotta spell it right, number of layers. You don't want to put any spacing in between, just run it together all as one word, and that's why I did the capital O and the capital L there. But you just want to run that together all as one word. All right, now here we go. So we want to say our measured area, because remember we drew it as an area measurement for our square footage. We want to multiply that by the number of layers, okay? So let's test this. So say that we have, we'll keep it, 1,000 square feet, and we do one layer. We need, oh, this was my per square foot. Because I didn't do a coverage rate. Good catch for myself there. Let's modify this. So we can see why this little test button is so important. So let's add our coverage rate. So remember in the item that we had set up, and we said, I believe it was 75 square feet. So we would take that measured area, divide that by, oops, divide that by 75 square feet. So that would give us our per case, right? So if I measure 1,000 square feet, then divide that by the 75 square feet that I can get out of a tube, that'll give me the number of tubes. And then I want to calculate the number of layers. So let's try this again. Measured area of 1,000, say one layer. Okay, so we need 13 tubes. If I want to add a second layer, so you can see where I'm going with this. Okay, so let's put this into action. So my coverage rates here are fine. Again, we could add anything that you can think of. I mean, anything that it is mathematically possible you can do in Stack, which is just an incredibly powerful feature. Right now I'm just going to keep it simple just on the concepts. Once you get the concepts, you can kind of build this out further. And again, our trainers are available to do one-on-one trainings via a screen share on this. But let's attach this and see what we have now, okay? It should look a little bit different. So let's go back to our training project. And then we're going to see that we have an additional field for that assembly, right? Because it's going to ask us for the number of layers. So if I go back to my 12-inch tile, hit my little edit pencil here, we can see, there's the 24-inch tile that I chose, but oops, I want to do a second layer of adhesive, just like that. So now we'll go to our reports, and we're going to see that reflect that my adhesive number is now twice what it was before. So the advantage of using an assembly is that you can group multiple items, so you're not having to click through and add all the items individually. You can just add them once into an assembly, and you can also do all kinds of different math here. Okay, so the sky is the limit on this. It really is. And again, our trainers are here to help with that. Okay, so items and assemblies. An assembly is a grouping of items, but you also pick up the ability to do item groups and some additional math. Okay, so pretty cool. Items and assemblies. I appreciate your time. Thank you. In this session, we are going to talk about using stack catalog assemblies. Okay, so we have another video on kind of creating your own items, creating your assemblies, but let's do a quick run through on using some of our stack pre-built catalogs, which are just amazing in their own right. But let's say, we've done some tile and we've done some counts for our sinks, but let's say that we're going to do some drywall. Okay, we can do that as a linear. We can either attach the items before or after. We'll go ahead and attach it since we're on the screen. So add items and assemblies. And then we're going to just drill down. Again, this is searchable, so you can just search for it, but I'll show you where it's located. So under stack assemblies, we can expand this. We can see all the different CSI divisions that we have assemblies for. So we would be going into finishes, and we'll go into gypsum, and then linear. So we kind of give you an indication here behind the name of the assembly of what type of measurement type. So remember how I chose linear from the drop-down menu? Those two have to match. So we can see that kind of gives you a little guidance here. Yes, so this particular assembly would work with a linear measurement. So if I was doing a ceiling, that would be a square foot or an area measurement. Okay, so we're going to attach that linear assembly. Now all the assemblies look a little bit different, but they're set up in the same kind of way. So they'll have text inputs at the top, and then you'll choose your materials from a drop down here below. So we can say our drywall height of side 1 is 10 feet. Also 10 feet on side 2. We are going to do a single layer. Okay, so, and if you're just doing one-sided, you would just leave these out. Okay, but say that we're going to do, and actually let's just do one-sided. We can do a waste factor of 10%. We can say my crew can do 100 square feet per hour. I can do hanging labor, finishing labor. I can separate this out if I want to. I can include fire tape if I need that. Again, if this is not applicable, that's fine. So we're going to pass through. We're doing single-sided. And then here is my 5/8. Let's see, let's do mold resistant. 5x8, okay. Since we're only doing a single side, so I'm going to do one line, and I just want drywall on one side. I can skip this one. Not doing that, I can say that this will be a level 4 finish. I use a 500 roll, and I use a 3.5 gallon for both the bed coat and the finish coat. I'm going to use a 40-pound box of screws, not doing a second layer of fire tape if required. So different ways of getting to where we want to go, and save. Oh, that's because I zeroed this out. I made the software unhappy with me. There we go. And now I would just go draw my walls. Okay, again, if you want to use label groups, you can go ahead and assign that before or after the fact. And let me just do some quick measurements here just to show you. So say that we're going to add some drywall here, we're going to add some drywall here, add some drywall here, just to show you what this looks like. Hop into our reports, And here's our drywall, and then here are our quantities, okay? So we've got our labor, our materials, subcontract, all that is already pre-built for you, and it is really that easy. You can see that some of these I've assigned pricing, and pricing is really easy to do. So say, like here is our mold resistant drywall. I do not have a unit price. You can go search through your items. For me, I found it's easier just to highlight this, copy it, go to the item, paste it. That way you just let the software find it for you. You can go through the folders, but it's far easier just to let the software do the work for you. Click there and then say, okay, my unit price is $15.60. And now when you go back to that report, we'll see that that now has a price to it right there. So it's going to start to price out that project. So that is how you would change or add to your pricing. Remember that our pricing is universal. So if I go back, 3 months from now and change this price up here at the item, it does affect all my past and future projects, which is a great reason to use these little snapshots. So that would save my project in this date and time, okay? Again, you still have all this functionality up here with the snapshots, but if I were to go at some point and change this material, say, it went up to $18, I do not want that to go back and change in my live report. So I want a snapshot of the pricing as of this date, okay? So basically the same workflow for all of our items and assemblies. They will have text inputs at the top. You'll choose from your materials down below. We have a lot of the work already done for you, so please take advantage of that. If you prefer to do your own, I do have a video for that, and then our trainers are available to help with that as well. So that's using a stack pre-built assembly. All right, thank you for your time.